So got a couple things in the agenda in the Google Doc. So Kyle, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, and my apologies. I wasn't. I can't start my video for some reason right now. But I mentioned this in the channel as well. I was thinking 5/25 would be the best date to start this, so we don't confuse ahead of 13.0. I updated the issue on that. We also have a handbook MR in progress to describe the policy, so that we can collect feedback in the feedback issue I linked to in the channel as well. So good progress there. From what Jinshin has done, it looks like we're ready for that first iteration of the group-based report. So looking forward to getting that started.
And I announced it as well, that this is coming in a couple different mediums. So it's good stuff there. So what does group think about adding a Periscope report, or I guess I should say Sisense report, showing trends, like, so we can actually see how we're doing, so we can see how we're doing on this, like current number of merge requests by team that I've identified as idle, group by team, so we can see a current state, a table, and then a graph of total number monthly, not historically, but starting next month. And I believe with the triage issues, we mark some, we add a label if it's currently idle or something like that. So we could pull this data basically from the label. Is that accurate, Kyle? That we have a label on the MRs we've labeled as idle, or are we not doing that?
So it wasn't a part of the initial triage report, just collecting them, I would say. Collecting the MRs together. We can look to do that. I also think that calculation of stale, or idle, I should say, is just looking at last updated date, which should be available in Sisense. So we don't need to necessarily wait for a triage policy to do that.
Okay. Is this something perhaps, Lily, you could take on?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having issues with my Zoom, so let me know if you can't hear or see me.
No,
my screen's a little bit blank. Oh, perfect. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely add a chart to detail this. Is idle just over 30 days?
Yeah, what I think we have one at 15 days and one at 30 days. Is that right, Kyle?
The policy was looking at merge requests that are idle for 28 days, so 4 weeks, and collecting them together for engineering managers to review and take any action.
Yep, so 28 days.
Yep.
Idle,
28 days?
Yes.
By idle, do we mean no activity, or do we mean just hasn't been merged?
No activity. So what we found is one of the top trends we noticed in merge requests merged in greater than 30 days is that, especially the ones on the way outside outliers, like greater than 90 days or greater than 60 or 90 days, is one or more instances of them going idle for greater than 30. So that this is the first place we decided to target. So great. So that's awesome, Colin, Lily. So good stuff. And the last thing, at least we have in the doc, is so we studied other trends on when, not about idle time, although that was one of the top trends, but about merge requests that took more than 30 days to merge from when they started to when they were merged, and looked at trends on other things like number of times the merge request was assigned to somebody other than where it started with, number of pipelines run, number of files changed, number of lines in those files changed, and number of threads, and found that ones that took greater than 30 days were significantly higher on those metrics than ones without. And we have some numbers later in the document on like average and median and 90th percentile. So I'd like to, not with the first launch of this, but in the future, look at some of these other ones and add it to the same triage issue, and then get feedback on it. So all of these numbers I came up with, they're kind of round numbers, at either 10 or at the 10s or at the 5s. It's just easier for people to kind of perceive them. And they're all where a small number of merge requests done in less than 30 days will get tagged with this, but a large percentage of ones that take greater than 30 days will. Looking at basically, averages in 90th percentile. So thoughts on these?
those all seem like really good things to add to the report or at least make visible. I'm not sure how feasible it is with how the triage, like the triage ops items work. It really leverages what's exposed through the API. And off the top of my head, I'm not sure, maybe Threads is exposed in the merge request API.
Yeah.
I can collect it all together and ask the team for feedback just to make sure there's nothing I'm missing, but
Okay.
I like where that's going. Yeah.
Should I, rather than us discussing in the doc, which is not the preferred way, should I file an issue to track each one, or to track all of them, and we just track it in the issue rather than in a doc?
I think just asking the question in the 453 triage ops issue where we're working on that triage report would be
Feedback
helpful.
one? Okay.
As long as you're talking about adding it to the triage report, if it's relative to something else,
Yeah, good. Okay, so we'll move it from. I'll do that. I'll add this feedback there, and then we'll talk about it there. So I'll add that as an action item for me. Great. Any
Wayne,
other?
do you have a Periscope dashboard where you've been playing with the results of those metrics to identify that correlation?
Yeah, well, some of those, yes. There's a link earlier in the doc on what Lily put together. If you look in the source data links section up earlier, it's the first link there is to a Periscope. It doesn't have all the data that we just discussed. It has a lot of the source data. It doesn't have the trends. Some of the trends, because we haven't added it to something like that yet, but you can see the trends later below. There's a couple tables linked and a spreadsheet later in the doc when we discussed this group previously.
Yeah, I saw the histogram one, but when you were talking about lines changed and so on, I wasn't sure if you had a separate place where you were playing with those numbers.
Not in Periscope. Basically, it's data pulled from Periscope and then trended in Google Sheets manually. But we definitely want to add those in the future. Things like that in the future, definitely. That's great. It's great, great idea, John.
Oh, I wasn't trying to contribute an idea there. I'm just interested in exploring your work a little better, because we are, we're trying to figure out what we can do in GitLab, the product, so that customers aren't rolling this themselves.
Yeah, it's a good point. Is these kinds of things are trends that not only can GitLab or can we ourselves benefit from this, but perhaps features in the product. Now, that being said, our trends in like when things take longer than we expect, and what customers' trends might be different on all these various metrics. If we were going to make it customer facing, I would likely want to have customers have the ability to see their own trends and then make their own decisions on the thresholds.
Hey John, on that light, do we have any capabilities in the product right now that can render like the long tail, the MRs that take longer to merge in a specific time frame? Do you have any insights on like a feature request for that we could maybe align on and use that if that lands?
Well, we do have productivity insights already in the tool that does have that kind of histogram. And I noticed that we reproduced that in Sisense. I've opened another epic that tries to address the question broadly of why are we using Sisense instead of capabilities we already have. And we know that there are some limitations there. I'm trying to collect those so we can turn them into issues and get them fixed. I'll link that in the document here.
Yes, that'll be great. Thank you.
And Mac, you have the next item?
Yes, so I believe we discussed this 2 meetings a while ago, and I think we should provide an update on what the direction is. So this is on the direction of deprecating Backstage, and credit to Kyle here and Remy and the engineering productivity team. We are deciding on introducing 4 labels. Some of them will be scoped, but the bottom line direction here is that some of the work happening in Backstage is actually a dependency to ship a feature. And because the use of feature right now sometimes it's about just new features, and existing features are lumped into Backstage as a catch-all. So to fix this, we would like to expand the label feature so it is scoped to new features addition and maintenance. So this work is categorized and credited accordingly. The other population of the work is scaffolding and tooling. So boring solution, we're gonna add 2 new scope labels, tooling pipelines and tooling workflow, to capture the work here in Backstage. And I think this is the majority of what's happening there now. Tooling pipelines is everything that we do to configure our CI, the test configurations, rewraps, and workflow is the triage automation, the delivery team, and the release and all that. So just want to update the stakeholders here on their progress. Happy to open up for questions on this direction going forward.
I think it's great we're working to make them more accurate, just in general.
Kyle, you have anything to add? This is your analysis. So
yeah, maybe just one thing to note is one of the behaviors we found is that Danger, I think, has kind of encouraged things that are groundwork for feature, like starting feature work, labeled as Backstage to avoid the changelog. So that's something we're also going to look to address in Danger, I would say, is in ensuring that we're not causing a Cobra effect with our merge request reviews rules, where we are trying to create one behavior and lead to an unexpected behavior outcome.
great. Back to you, Wayne.
So do we need this recurring meeting any longer? It got us going. I think we've met 4 times. We have a Slack channel where we're discussing things. We have 1 or more issues where we're discussing things. So, you know, this was intended to do this not into perpetuity, but for a limited period of time. I'm asking the question because I think we're close to being at the end of needing this recurring meeting. But I don't know if today's the last one and we do 1 more, or but would like everybody's thoughts.
You want to schedule a retrospective after you've seen a month's worth of results, and
yeah,
maybe
that's a good idea.
The next meeting.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should stop the recurring meeting and then set a date where we meet together and then reanalyze what has been the outcome of these changes, and then figure steps forward.
And determine next steps. That sounds great. So I will I'll get that scheduled. It's a great idea. All right, unless there's anything else, I think we're done. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Wow.